this content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
Isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill
Wait
no
a
one.
second.
No.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. Septum Sin versus the world. 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 I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings and welcome out there in entertainment land. You, my friends, are people of discerning tastes. People, when passers-by walk down the street, they say, "This is an individual that knows movies and entertainment." Unfortunately, we don't. And that's why we're here to bring you the next Vlogcast.
Yes.
I am, of course, Septum Sen, and I'm here with Kotobuki Jake.
Hi.
As we are sitting here in front of the nice Christmas tree, soaking up the lovely, lovely darkness, apparently, because that's all there seems to be in Virginia these days. But, hey, it is pretty because they have a lot of Christmas lights out.
Yep.
The hard part's in January where they take the lights down, and then it's just dark. You just walk around and run into things.
Yeah.
But we have some interesting things to bring you today on our show. I have another YouTube update for the upcoming new year. I've been approached by a director and actually given access to all of his movies. And there are a lot of them. 20-some to be exact. I have seen the majority now. I have seen 15. And this is a group called Anhedonia. And I keep wanting to call them Anhedonia. Matter of fact, Mosley made that mistake too when I was talking about it. But it's Anhedonia. So yeah, instead of D-O, it's D-E. And they put out a variety. You've got your, romantic dramedies, you've got your horror, you've got your sci-fi. It's all over the place. So it's interesting, and I will be doing a specialty, since it's streaming, it'll be a specialty feature where I do a playlist, and I'm going to go, once it gets started, and I get all these films watched, because he only gave me a month to see them all. Once I've seen them all and written them up, I'm going to do one review a week until I am done. It's a hard project. There are some really good ones, and there are some ones that I'm thinking, it's only an hour, right? Why is this movie taking so long? And we'll see how it goes. Who knows? The director may be listening right now, and he's going to shut me off. Anything upcoming for your channel?
Not particularly.
Well, the next up is collection update. Well, I can tell you right now, as the gifts pack up under the tree, really it's more of the buys. This is the heavy buying. So basically, I don't buy as much during the main part of the year, but then this part of the year, all the sales come out, and then I bankrupt myself, and I'm paying for the sales for the rest of the year. It's going to be interesting. I've got to find room for all this stuff. I have room. I have a few more shelves.
Oh, come on. Never mind.
Okay. Any case, this will be interesting in times to come. So, here we are at Kotobuki Jake's ongoing viewing.
Okay.
So what's ongoing?
Ongoing viewing.
Probably the same as last week.
Well, Hanasako Iroha.
Alright.
Yeah, and as far as ongoing reading, I finally finally have been able to return to the promised Neverland. And I've made pretty good time. I will be finishing it next week. But yes, I have been viewing Hanasaki Iroha. Still very much enjoying it. I finished volume 1. So,
Yeah, and we're not going to be doing a vlogcast this week. I mean, next week. We are doing one this week.
Yeah.
Because we're doing our Christmas episode.
Nice.
It's going to be the double episode. We're only doing one this week. And it's going to be pretty awesome. We're going to do, just like our 100th episode, it's going to be combined with some skits that have gotten planned. I've told them about one skit, and there's another skit that's going to happen. We're going to work that through. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to debut on Christmas Day. He's sitting there reading the news while I'm trying to do this. And he's supposed to be reading it on a regular basis so that he can bring his 2 stories to me.
I'm too busy.
You know what's weird is before I stuck the entertainment news in here, he had a bunch of things he'd want to mention each week. And now that I've put it in here, he doesn't. Any release news that you've got that you saw was really cool?
Release news?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe I saw anything this week.
No.
Release-wise, yeah.
Oh, very
Nothing
good.
major.
Well, entertainment news. Well, I know you're looking up a story right now.
Yep.
So I'm going to start with one that's an anime-related story. Is it Tier Studio?
Yeah.
They filing for bankruptcy. Their people are not getting paid. And they are known for a couple of things. I don't know much of what they have. It was like Lord of Vermilion, The Crimson King, Why the Hell Are You Here, Teacher, The Royal Tutor, Frag Time, which is also fairly well known, and the original Why the Hell Are You Here, Teacher. But yeah, they're going through bankruptcy. So I feel bad for the people working there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we missed a lot by their loss, but, it's sad to see an anime studio close down.
Right.
Now, I know you were looking at something. What are you...
Yeah, so what I'm looking at is that the Oscars put out several of their shortlists today, which included contenders. This particular article is about the music ones. So there were 15 songs shortlisted from 75 entered, and 15 scores shortlisted from 170. So we're already down to no more than 15 for each. Now, this is where it gets kind of wonky. For one, I don't know how I feel about Cats. I really don't.
Yeah, well, they've got that song thing going.
But the thing is, the song is not on the shortlist.
Oh.
Yes. Elton John got shortlisted twice, despite the fact that he has publicly disparaged The Lion King. He's still got a nomination for that song, as well as the one from Rocket Man. Lion King is the only one to make the shortlist twice, which is kind of annoying.
Animated feature, I'm betting.
No, shortlisted for song.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Beyonce's song, of course, is also on there.
Of course.
Yeah. So this was one of the parts where I was kind of, I think I did the woohoo for this one. Catherine Bostic does a pretty badass, like old school gospel blues song called High Above the Water from the documentary Toni Morrison, The Pieces I Am. That is a long shot nominee, but I am thrilled that it was shortlisted because that song kicked ass. And there's also the Stand Up from Harriet is also in that vein, and that one's shortlisted as well. There's actually a song from Parasite. Parasite is doing... I want to see that damn film.
Yeah.
But this was the other part that was annoying as hell. The song I've been saying since the start of the year needs to be nominated and win is not even shortlisted. Not Evil is not shortlisted. However, Lego Movie 2 does make the list for catchy song.
Yeah.
Which Yeah, but still, Not Evil was the better of the two
Songs get
songs.
stuck inside.
Oh,
Get
God.
stuck inside your
I kind of want to see it get a nomination just because. And for the original scores, John Powell's badass score for How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World is not nominated. But John Williams has another Star Wars possibility. Why? At this point, it is not an original score. Why? Anyway, so Joker got shortlisted. So did Avengers Endgame, Marriage Story, bunch of stuff, Little Women. Actually, from what I've heard, the score for Little Women is supposed to be pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So Alexander Desplat's pretty awesome. And Jojo Rabbit as well. But there always are some weirdness with the... Among the ones either disqualified or not submitted... Captain Marvel, The Irishman, Knives Out, The Two Popes, Ad Astra. I've only seen a couple of those, but still, Captain Marvel didn't have a qualifying score?
Yeah,
What?
well, what do you want?
I want to know what the hell makes a qualifying score. And when, yeah. So they've also got the short films are out, and there's some
So is
other...
Star Wars going to be up for the score again?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's shortlisted, so yeah, it probably will be.
Yeah, I mean...
That's freaking stupid. I guess makeup and hairstyling were also one of the ones today. Interesting. And Yorgos Lanthimos is in talks to do a horror western.
Ooh.
Interesting.
So, my other story is from the Hallmark Company.
Oh.
We all know Hallmark has their Christmas films this time of year, and they
Yeah.
had this nice ad that was going to be showing a lesbian couple kissing. But anti-gay groups got really angry, and they managed to get Hallmark to pull the ad. So, you know, that's the sad that you back down, Hallmark. Hallmark.
What?
But apparently that's the sad thing about it.
Oh,
I just wanted to bring that out. You know,
right.
I don't really see where the issue is, but I guess I can say that the people who do, they've got their own issues and their own ethical quandaries, I am sure. You had something else you were looking up?
Yes, so this is a companion to the one I was just looking at. This is the full listing. Thank God Alita's nominated, or potentially up for visual effects. I mean, geez, that would have been weird if it's not. Yeah, actually, no surprises there. Most of those are... The ones shortlisted for visual effects include Alita, Avengers Endgame, Captain Marvel, Gemini Man, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, Terminator Dark Fate. I guess Cats is a little surprising, but yeah, whatever. But this is the one, okay, so I just told you guys about the music. Guess what is shortlisted, eligible for music, a documentary that's not shortlisted for documentary? Toni Morrison, Pieces I Am.
Huh.
That was a great documentary. How the hell is it not in the top 15? Yeah, I don't know. Now, I have seen one of these. I have seen Maiden, and yes, that, but we have 5 films shortlisted that start with A. I think they just started at the start of the alphabet and just went through.
Yeah.
Seriously, look at that. It starts with 5 A's and ends with an O.
Well, we'll just see what the cards have
wow.
in store for us in the Oscars coming about.
Yeah.
I can't get out to see many films in theaters, so it doesn't matter.
And of course, another thing I heard this week, Downton Abbey is on the running for makeup and hairstyling.
Huh.
So is Joker. Little Women, some of those. Rocket Man, yeah, okay, some of these that make sense. And Dolomite Is My Name made the cut for that one. So, I also heard this week that the Oscars are like 2 weeks earlier than usual.
Oh my god.
That kind of pisses me off. It really does.
So what? Then it's almost in January then.
Yeah, I think it's the first weekend of February.
My god.
Yeah.
Like no time to get prepared. I'm gonna get to this Oscar season and not see any of the nominees.
No time at all. Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll see how it is. I'm sure I'll be getting Joker when it comes out on Steelbook, and I know that one's going to be up.
Right.
I mean, shoot, I would not be surprised if Joaquin Phoenix doesn't win Best Actor.
He's in the running, although from what I understand, Adam Driver could be some good competition. I still need to see A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and find out why Tom Hanks is up for supporting in all these categories.
My mother watched the film, and
Yeah?
she told me about it. And it's not a film about him. It's not a Mr. Rogers film. It's a film about somebody else.
Yeah.
And that somebody else is getting like advice from Mr. Rogers and stuff like that.
Okay.
That's why.
That makes more sense, but
Which
still.
is sad. I'd rather have had the film about Mr. Rogers and not about
Right.
somebody else who just happens to be talking to him. Speaking of, that documentary got robbed.
Yes.
That documentary should have won.
Yes.
I didn't mind the National Geographic documentary, but if I'm comparing it to the Mr. Rogers documentary, it was not a contest.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well. Yeah. In any case, deaths. Any deaths that you wanted to talk about?
Jeez, I feel like there was one, but nothing's coming to mind.
Well, first impressions.
Mm-hmm.
I have a first impression. I completed a game, so I started a new game.
Mm-hmm.
Death Stranding. From what people are talking about, when they say, well, the last game you played was super short, and it took me a month and a half to beat. We can't have games... Why can't we have all games to be the length of Death Stranding? Because it's a good long game. It keeps us busy for at least 2 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, you 2 weeks. Me, I'm like, probably be playing this next year.
Mm-hmm.
I played for an hour, because that's what I had this weekend. I had an hour of game time. You know what I got to?
Hmm?
I got to the title card. It's okay so far. It's kind of interesting. The story is definitely... Kojima does make a very compelling story. So, what else do you have for us on the first impression?
First impression.
We'll just start with...
I started stuff. I did. I finished most of it. But one thing I started is a reading. I started reading the new Stephen King book, The Institute.
Ah,
And I have to say, the timing of reading this while reading The Promised Neverland, there are some similarities. There are some definite differences, but there are some similarities because we have pretty much a kid-centric story with very intelligent children. I mean, very intelligent children. And trying to... I'm only in the early part of the Institute, so there's no real talk of escape or anything yet, but there's definitely some weirdness going on. And it's off to a good start. I mean, I like Stephen King as a writer. I think he writes very, very well. He does have some interesting ideas, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this one goes. It does start off with a character who seems to have nothing to do with the main plot line, so I'm curious to see how that's going to tie into it, but yeah.
well, I know you got one for this one because you had said you went to the movies.
I did.
What did you see?
Of all things, that's probably not fair to say that, but it was kind of random. The way it all came together, the way my Saturday came together was very random.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Exactly. But I actually went to go see the film Harriet, which, as we just mentioned not long ago, is in the running for original song, potentially. And given its Golden Globe nod, it has a good shot. And the main actress who plays Harriet Tubman, Cynthia Erivo, actually sings the song. And I think co-wrote it, if I remember correctly. Erivo does a very good job. Basically, the film, as you could probably guess, is about the woman known as Harriet Tubman, who I think born Araminta Ross was their actual original name. And when she made it to freedom, they said, pick your own name, and this was the name she went with, and went down in history as. And it is a pretty well done movie. It's directed by Casey Lemons, who actually is the woman who played Clarice Starling's fellow trainee in The Silence of the Lambs, but she's gone on as she's a semi-successful director. Did Eve's Bayou and a few other films, and of course, as we've said before, I'm a big proponent of women getting more chances to direct, especially when they make really good films. And Harriet is a good film, and it features Cynthia Erivo, who I was introduced to with the 1-2 punch of Widows and Bad Times at the El Royale, which are two very different films from Harriet and from each other. And she does a great job in all three films. So I'm looking forward to it. But she has a hell of a voice. She really does. But what's interesting is that Harriet also features multiple singers. Jennifer Nettles of Sugarland and Janelle Monáe both have supporting roles, and Nettles hums a few bars, but Monáe actually doesn't sing. But the guy, I can't remember his name, but the guy who plays Reverend Green in the film, he's got a hell of a voice too. And this film is a great argument for use of music in film.
Yeah.
It is. It also should be in the running for some of the, I don't think it was on the makeup short list, but probably like
I really do want to see
costume
that.
design. It's really good. It's worth seeing. It was not one of the ones on the top of my to watch list, but I'm glad I got to go see it.
I was on the top of ours, but we never actually. It's just expensive to go out to the movies. So we're off to Inside Movies Galore. We had a couple of things. You got to watch Santa's Sleigh, which I talked about last week. And, of course, if you want to know what we think of Santa's Sleigh, you should be watching our Inside Movies Galore one, which was fun. I had a fun discussion that time.
It's good times.
And, of course, I watched Flash Gordon, which is going to be the pre-show, which I talked about in the pickups. So if you want to hear more about, you can watch the pickups, or you can tune in to Inside Movies Galore for the pre-show. And then finally, we got together as a group and watched Silent Night, Deadly Night, which was this week's discussion. It's rare that we actually watch it at the same time. And, to me, it continues to hold up for what it is. It's about this guy. He, as a child, he gets his parents slaughtered by Santa Claus.
He doesn't get them slaughtered. He just sees it.
And then he does his own bit of Santa slaughtering as we go later on. Anything that you want to let them know that's not likely to be covered in the Inside Movies Galore?
I'm going to make a point to cover as much as I can.
It was fun.
It was fun. I enjoyed it more than I really didn't know what to think. I honestly couldn't remember if it was one I'd seen or not, but it definitely was one I'd not seen.
We had kind of followed it up after y'all left with the second one. But what's weird? I fell asleep, right?
Right.
And I woke up at the point where he's like, garbage day!
Well, of course you woke up for that.
And it was just funny how the timing was, because 90% of the movie, and actually no, 50% of the movie is a flashback.
Yeah.
So it's, to me, you can watch the second film without even seeing the first film, because they basically go through the entire first film in the second film. So, yeah, it's
It's funny that you say we, though. I could have sworn your wife was dead to the world when we left.
Well, she was about as conscious as I was when we were watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And but with that being said, we can move over to Christmas films.
Yeah.
And another one we watched together, I'll let you go to because I covered those Inside Movies galore. So I'm sure
Well, we did a lengthy viewing. Actually, this was the like I said, Saturday ended up being quite random in a lot of ways. We ended up coming and watching The Muppets Christmas Carol. A nice little holiday classic there, featuring Michael Caine as was Ebenezer Scrooge, and Kermit the Frog as Bob Cratchit, and etc. Narrated by Gonzo and Rizzo the Rat, and very intriguing. Some interesting musical numbers, mostly forgettable, but interesting. I enjoy it. I'm pretty sure I was probably the one who had the least sentimental attachment to it of the group, but
me,
yeah.
I didn't really have any sentiment. I didn't.
You didn't?
My first time seeing it was way later. I mean, I was out on my own. I think I saw it first when I was living here in Richmond.
Still might have been.
I mean,
before
like
I did.
when I was employed by the Chesterfield government, which
Yeah.
means like within the last 10 years.
Ah,
So, because it wasn't one that I watched a lot as a child. Because I was a teenager, I believe, when the darn thing came out. But I was like, I think it was one of the last films that Jim Henson was working on at the time.
Right.
So, it was still worth a view. I enjoy watching it. It was fun. I enjoy all the Muppet movies. I mean, Muppets are fun to watch in general.
so we were thinking about doing a Muppets thing, but then he's like, we need to do Silent Night, Deadly Night. So we followed the Muppets with that. And then at that point, most of us were barely holding on to consciousness. But we were like, we want to do one more. So we went ahead and did Blackadder's Christmas Carol.
Oh, it was
And
fun.
Blackadder's Christmas Carol is fun. It is fun. If you are not familiar with the Blackadder series, it mostly follows this dude, this lineage of dudes, the Blackadder line. I know one of them was Edmund Blackadder. Was that the generally name?
Yeah, I think they're almost all Edmund,
Yeah.
or in a
Some
sense of it, yeah.
And so basically you have this line of nasty, duplicitous, sneaky, conniving, generally unpleasant characters played by Rowan Atkinson, and he does do a fine job with that sort of character. And Tony Robinson is on board as his trusty sidekick, Baldrick.
He's very different from his Mr. Bean persona.
Yes, very different. And in the Christmas Carol, well, and also a hallmark of it also is the cast. You have Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry, who I believe this predates even Fry and Laurie.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they met on the show. I don't know. You also have Miranda Richardson, Miriam Margolyes, did I get that? I think I got that right. Jim Broadbent. I think Brian Blessed was in the first season.
Yeah, he was.
Robbie Coltrane. I don't think Blessed showed up in the Christmas Carol, but
No.
all the others did. And it's basically the anti-Christmas Carol. You have this Blackadder is a very kind, generous, warm-hearted, giving man who's so charitable that he gets walked all over on Christmas. He gets fleeced by everyone in town. Baldrick making one snide comment after another as he goes on. And then finally he goes off to bed, and the ghost of Christmas, played by Robbie Coltrane, comes in. So he is a great role for Coltrane. He comes in, he's like, oh man, I'm sorry, all these bad people, I picked the wrong house. I'm just, I go around, I show them their visions of their past and where they're headed and all this stuff. He's like, oh, can you show me my ancestors? yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
They start showing them, and each one, Blackadder gets more and more intrigued. And then, finally, he's like, could you show me, if I were to go bad, what would my future hold? Oh, no, I think I've stayed too long. And then he finds out that, well, if he were to go bad, he will eventually, his ancestors will rule the universe. Descendants will rule the universe. And then he's like, well, what if I'm good? Oh, I really stayed too long. I need to go.
Which is sad because if they showed what really happens to Blackadder, he always ends up dying in a horrible way at the end of each scene.
Right. But it showed Baldric being the officer and Blackadder being the sidekick. And it's, oh yes, he goes bad. I know it's a little bit of a spoiler there, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, when I say anti-Christmas Carol, you probably know where it's going.
I mean, when I was in high school, when I was doing drama class, we all had to write plays, and we were all in groups together. So I was the one tasked with writing the play for the group. And I'd never seen this one, but I did the same thing. I did basically the anti-Christmas Carol with the guy's really good, and then the spirits are basically like, yeah. I mean, like I don't remember a lot of it. I remember that the spirit was really upset. I mean, the guy got upset because apparently he would be Bob Dole or something like that. But I remember that there was the line. It's like, did I hear chains? He's like, no, not chains, change in my pockets. Money is everything in the afterlife. Just the way it was.
Yeah, well, that is worth noting. In the Muppets one, of course, you have the hecklers as the Marleys, and that's fun.
Yes, they're Marley and Marley. Ooh.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to cover these in just one big group. I watched pretty much every Krampus film except for Night of the Krampus, which we watched earlier. And I think I talked about Night of the Krampus. No, I didn't. Oh, well, I'll talk about that one too.
Good.
Night of the Krampus, and I didn't watch the mainline film that everybody knows for Krampus, which is, well, Krampus. But Night of the Krampus was the first one. And it's just a little short about these supernatural detectives that were exploring this strange scene where children get taken. And the beginning scene is actually pretty creepy, where the child gets taken. It turns out to be this guy who is summoning Krampus to do his own ends because he doesn't like children. Then I watched Krampus Unleashed and Krampus the Reckoning. One of them is about this person who finds this enchanted stone and it summons the Krampus, and Krampus just goes on a killing spree. The other Krampus, I don't remember. It must not have been good. But then there's Krampus the Christmas Devil and Krampus 2 the Devil Returns. By the way, it has Cool Duder in it. And this is basically Krampus and his Krampus and Santa Claus team up, and they basically Santa basically goes around and kills has Krampus kill all these people that are bad on Christmas Eve. There's also Krampus Unleashed and Krampus the Reckoning. Again, not going there, but I've seen them.
I've seen them.
And they're not all that bad, actually. I mean, one of them, and I can't remember which one's which, because they all run into each other. And one of them is essentially, this almost a detective story, where Krampus is just kind of summoned by this little girl as a spirit of vengeance. And then, of course, there was Mother Krampus, which wasn't bad. Another spirit of vengeance, essentially, where you had this woman who was burned alive, and she's getting revenge on the people who did it. And then, finally, Mother Krampus 2, which was very bad. It's one of the ones... It really shouldn't have been in the series. I liked it better this time around. I mean, it's essentially these women, they get, they're on their last day of parole, so they stop by this woman's house. Unfortunately, an inmate from an insane asylum came in and killed everybody. Well, this person then took the place of the owners of the house and decided they were going to kill all the co-eds. I really don't know what to say about that stuff other than sheesh. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can think of with Krampus. I mean, I've got a Krampus ornament, and there were a number of... there's a ton of Krampus movies, and there's just so many of them, it's hard to keep up with what each one of them is about. I mean, there's only so many of these where they can kill it, but they have been fairly creative in how they deal with it. I've actually been quite pleased with that. Still, what can you do at the end of the day? The last, though, and I wanted to make sure you were here for that last one, was A Christmas Horror Story. Were you with us when we discussed A Christmas Horror Story on Inside Movies Galore?
I don't believe so.
This was last year at Christmas time, I think, or was it the year before? It was, and if you haven't, check out our discussion. I love this one. You were here when we did Trick or Treat, right?
Yes.
So it's very similar to that, except it's more of a Christmas tale. And it's got William Shatner as the narrator.
Nice.
He plays this guy that's a radio artist. It goes over several vignettes. One of the vignettes is this couple, and they're trying to get back together again, and so they take their son out to get a Christmas tree, and then the son returns and he's acting strange, almost as if it's not really their son. You got another one where this group of teens decides to break into this part of the school where this a bunch of murders happened, and they have to deal with the ghosts inside. There is another one, which is a Krampus one, which is why I put this in there. There's two of them that are Krampus related, where this family goes to the mother in order to ask for money, essentially, and it's a bratty family with a bratty kid and all this stuff, and Krampus is summoned and starts hunting them down. And of course, the final one, which is one of my favorite, is Santa's working in his workshop, and all of his elves start going rabid and become undead monsters and trying to attack him. And it ends up having this epic battle between him and Krampus at the very end. And all the while, you get to hear about William Shatner talking about this terrible event happening at the mall where people are being killed and stuff. And all the stories do connect in some way or another. So I'm not going to spoil it for you folks, because to me it's one of my favorite Christmas horror films. One I try and watch every year ever since I discovered it a few years ago. If you haven't watched it, check it out. Then check out our discussion on Inside Movies Galore.
Cool.
So, do you have any Christmas viewing, more Christmas? Well, when are you going to start watching
I don't
Christmas
know.
movies?
I just haven't done it this year. I haven't had time. I've been too busy with other stuff.
Well, throw out one. I know you've got some watched lists and some red lists.
Oh, I got a crap load of watch.
So throw me a bone.
Good ones. So first off, I'm going to go ahead. I guess I'll go ahead and do these together because they've been sitting here for a while. We were going to do our tribute to NIS, and then this whole thing with YouTube kind of took place. And we're still probably going to do it, but we wanted to recalibrate and wait a little bit. And but two that I rushed to watch in time that I did get watched in time, but now they'll still be fresh-ish in my mind.
I was gonna say you're still and you're gonna have another one finished because you'll get Hanasakura Roha.
Exactly. I did finish Genshin Second Generation. and My Little Monster. And so I'll go ahead briefly with each one. Genshin, of course, is a great show about nerds. I mean, that's really, it's what it is. It's a show about geeks and nerds and all the people that love them and what have you. And second generation essentially takes place, what would you say, about 2 years after the first one, maybe? Because, like, the first one kind of kicks off with Kanji Sasahara and the blonde dude, whose name's escaping me at the moment, joining Genshin. And in this one, they have recently graduated, and Sasahara's girlfriend, Ogiue, is now the president of Genshin, which is the Society for the Study of Modern Culture, or some such thing is their proper name. But under her tutelage, it has become basically a Fujoshi group. All these girls who are really into BL porn and that sort of thing. Of course, you still have Kuchiki, who I have to admit, Kuchiki is the worst part of Genshin second season by far. The character annoys the crap out of me. He is luckily downplayed significantly in this one, but he's still there. He and my favorite character, Kanako Ono, are seniors, and they're getting ready to graduate, so that's part of the story. But you also have all the new characters. You have the two girls and the guy who's cross-dresses as a girl. And he's actually a pretty cool character. Mostly it's a cool character. Madarame. Whatever is still around, is a major player, and there's a lot of other. It's a good.
They do cameos of the.
Well, no, he's a major character, but yeah, the others have cameos. Sasahara's gal sister actually plays a bigger role than I would have expected. It's a fun series. It's really good. It's really well done. It was a step up from season 2. And then My Little Monster is intriguing little
really
series.
Good one.
That one, basically, there's a girl who studies. That's her thing.
That's the one that ended way too soon.
It did end a little soon. I didn't feel like it was as abrupt as you made me think it was, but it still should have gone longer. But basically, you have this one dude who's just weird, and this girl who's obsessed with studying. And somehow the two of them develop a bond that brings him back to school. He basically wasn't even going to school. He pisses her off because he's naturally brilliant. She studies her ass off and he does better. But you come to find out later that apparently during all his skipping, he was studying. So he came by some of it, honestly. But it's a really interesting series. It's one of those ones about a bunch of misfits who become friends, and, you know, just kind of, you got the one girl who you would think would be really popular, but she's so popular that everyone hates her, that sort of thing. And she's not that smart either, so she uses the other one as a tutor. And then you got the dude who's the sporty guy who's fairly popular, who kind of hangs out with them and It
reminds me of a less ecchi version of Haganai.
A little bit, yeah. There's a lot of Haganai to it. I still think a little bit of there's a little bit as well of Kimi ni Todoke and a little bit of Toradora and that sort of thing. But you kind of throw all of them in a blender, you got an idea.
So I think if this show had gone like a 24 to 26 episode run, I think it would have been fine.
Right.
I just feel like they left a lot of loose ends.
Yeah. Alright.
So I'm going to do this 4-pack because really I watched this 4-pack because it comes with one particular film, Santa with Muscles, which by the way got a Blu-ray release this year, which I may end up getting. God. Santa with Muscles is excellent. Hulk Hogan Santa movie. He plays this out of touch millionaire who dresses up as Santa when chased by the police that think he's actually a terrorist because he travels in a bunch of like black SUVs, and they all have got like paintball, which they look like real weapons. So they're chasing him, and he gets his head hurt, so he forgets who he is. So the guy who's trying to steal all his money convinces him he's Santa Claus. Then he gets hooked up with an orphanage that he has to save from this evil man who's a germaphobe, and he has these evil, like, superpowered villain creatures with him. You got an electric girl. You've got somebody who, like, there was like a stink bomb expert. You've got a doctor who's a martial arts expert. And, Hulk Hogan, being the Santa with muscles, has to save the orphanage.
And this all sounds so great. It sounds like it would be wonderful. I've seen the movie. It's boring.
I still enjoy it. It's a guilty pleasure.
Oh, God.
It came with 3 other films that are more just like your standard Hallmark Christmas films. Right. Like our news story. The Elf Who Didn't Believe. Essentially, it's about an elf, and this is one of those, like with the Santa Claus, where the elves are all played by children for the most part. And he's like, I'm through with this shit. Bye. And then took Santa's sleigh and absconded with it. And runs into this girl and eventually finds out, okay, maybe I need to be a special elf after all. There is the Santa incident where this fighter pilot ends up shooting down Santa's sleigh, and Santa's injured. So this family takes Santa in, and Santa tries to help this family's marital problems, while at the same time dodging the U.S. government, who's trying to harness Santa's power for themselves. And then finally, the boy who saved Christmas. Santa's evil brother, not Krampus.
Arthur?
God, no. God. Shows up and decides, and he's really PO'd because Santa took his girl, essentially. So he takes over by shipping Santa off by rocket ship. And so Santa also hits his head there and has to gain his power back in order to try and get back to the North Pole and take out his evil brother, and
Yeah.
So those now, would I say out of the 4-pack, which one would be worth it? Just to have it in your collection, Santa with Muscles, of course. But at this point, buy the Blu-ray if you really want it, because there's no point in buying the others. They're really just kind of Hallmarky trash. And as you said with Santa with Muscles, they sound a lot more exciting than they actually are.
Oh, God. On a very, very, very different end of the spectrum, I'm going to talk about documentaries. Oh, geez, because I've actually seen a pretty fair number of documentaries in the last couple weeks, and I think 4 total. So I'm going to do them 2 and 2, and hopefully that'll give me plenty of time. That'll probably end up being the rest of it for tonight. We'll see. But anyway, so the first 2 I'm going to say are, one was a nominee last year for Best Documentary Feature. And the other is likely to be one this year. The one from last year is a film called Of Fathers and Sons. And it's filmed by a Syrian refugee living in Germany who went home and managed to embed himself in a jihadist family, and basically got a first-hand look at their daily life and what it was like. And it's an interesting film. It's very informative. I really kind of felt a little bit underwhelmed. I kind of felt maybe like, I don't know. It's kind of almost it's almost too objective, maybe, if that's the right way to say it.
But you're hoping like for them to blow somebody up or something?
No. I mean, from his part, from the filmmaker's perspective, it kind of, it almost comes across as just presenting this. Some of the stuff they say is pretty bad. I mean, pretty. But anyway, that was just my take on it. I kind of wasn't sure what to make of it, but I applaud the dude's cojones for pulling this off, and for he did. That the dude deserves props for making the film, and it was very interesting. You will again very informative. It's good to learn what other people, other perspectives, to see other perspectives, and I give it props for that. The other one, talking about trying to see things from a different perspective, is a film that is likely to be, it's on the short list for this year, and likely to be one of the nominees. And it's a film called Maiden, which is about the voyage of the ship Maiden, a yacht vessel that was the first all-female crew to take place in the Whitbread yachting race, which is an insane... It is insane. If any of you out there are yachting fans and you wish to tear me down one for doing this, I'll say it's insane. They leave from England and go to Uruguay. Then they go through the Southern Ocean to Australia, then to New Zealand, then back to Fort Lauderdale, I believe it is, and then back to England in a yacht.
Wow.
And so Maiden follows this young lady, Tracy, who had made the trip as a cook and said, they don't respect women. I want to just do this on my own.
Yeah.
She got herself a crew together, and they made the voyage. And this took place, I think, in the late 80s. So it's mostly archival footage, but there's a lot of interviews with the people involved. And it's pretty well done. It's a pretty good documentary, and very interesting. I know nothing about yachting, but I was intrigued by it. And again, it may, from what I've heard, it'll be possibly with the one to beat this year. So, yeah.
Well, my next one is just a one, and that will be "She Was So Pretty, Be Good for Goodness Sake." We were going to do a discussion with Katie about this, but Katie has kind of been absent. So, because I've asked a couple of times and I haven't got a response. So my guess is that it won't be covered for that, but that's all right because I did do a review of the movie, which you guys can look up if you want on the site. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. My next two are both involve discussion of music, and they're both about very famous people who recently passed. And one of them was Aretha Franklin, Amazing Grace, which basically was about the recording of her famous gospel album Amazing Grace, which is like one of the all-time greatest selling gospel albums. Apparently they were going to film a TV special. Sidney Pollack was actually tapped by Warner Brothers to do this documentary, but apparently there were some technical issues and it never happened. So now they've finally gone back, pieced together some footage, I guess probably re-recorded bits, and it's basically a concert doc. It's nothing extraordinary. Some good music. Good chance to see a snippet of Aretha Franklin's life back in the day. That's it. I was really expecting more, to be honest. But the other one we just talked about earlier this week, and actually earlier on this with our news, Toni Morrison, The Pieces I Am. Like I said, that is on the short list for original song for High Above the Water, I think it is. High Above the Water. Like I said, that is a pretty kick-ass song. The documentary is really good. It was actually filmed shortly before Miss Morrison's passing last year, and she is front and center in much of the documentary doing interviews. They also interview a bunch of other people involved in various aspects of her life and career. Oprah Winfrey, Philip Banks, and a few other people are involved. And one of my favorite ones, you got to watch it. I'm not going to spoil it here. But she and Winfrey both recount an anecdote about the filming of Beloved that's pretty funny. But it was... Morrison was a phenomenal writer. She really was a brilliant writer. I've only read a couple of her books way back in the day, and I need to read them again. I read The Song of Solomon and Bluest Eye, and The Bluest Eye stuck with me. It stuck with me. That book affected me. Song of Solomon did too, but not as much. But Morrison described her writing style in the documentary as a scorched earth style, and I think it was Philip Banks who said, like, you would love to read about her books, but you do not want to be someone in her books. But I need to read Beloved. I've been looking for an excuse for ages. Even when she died, I was like, oh man, I need to read another one of her books. And now I'm like, I really need to read more of her stuff. But the documentary is a good step in the right direction. And I cannot believe it's not even shortlisted. These must be some really awesome documentaries. That's all I gotta say, Oscar. These gotta be some really awesome documentaries if you didn't shortlist this one.
I don't hold them in high regard after Won't You Be My Neighbor wasn't nominated.
I seriously think that they just go through it alphabetically. That would help explain.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the one? Free Solo, yes. That would help explain last year. Won't You Be My Neighbor and Three Identical Strangers near the end of the alphabet. I think we hit on something here.
Possibly. Gosh, that would be a pitiful way.
That would be.
Like, okay, if you want your stuff to make sure it starts with a letter that's further up in the alphabet.
Oh, that's sad.
Well, two final ones that probably would not be recommended watching. I trash watch a lot. I get enjoyment out of trashy films.
Yeah.
And the two I'm talking about are Christmas Story 2 and Jingle All the Way 2.
Oh, God.
Both of them are decent films in the originals. One of them considered a classic. Actually, Jingle All the Way is starting to become a classic. Hard to believe. But at the time, I thought Last Action Hero was going to be lost to history. I was wrong. But A Christmas Story 2 kind of takes place in the future. Of course, you got the Home Alone, was it Marv? Not Marv, it was,
Daniel Stern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He played the father.
Oh.
And you continue the story of Ralphie as he wants a car to impress a girl. But he screws the car up, so then they have to try and work to pay for the repairs, or the police will get called on him before the end of the season. It's funny, it's silly, it's not a bad film, but it's not a good film.
That was one of the news items this week. I read something about they want to reboot Home Alone.
Boo.
Yeah.
I just saw something on the recommendations from I think it was Disney Plus. There's a Home Alone but with dogs. Yeah. So the other Jingle All the Way stars what's his name? What is the guy's name? The Get Her Done guy. What was his name?
Larry the Cable.
Yeah, Larry the Cable guy.
Oh, God.
Yep. Well, Larry the Cable guy, he lives in a trailer because he's good for nothing. And he wants to impress his daughter because his wife, who left him, married a millionaire. And he's got a lot of money. So, Larry the Cable guy steals his daughter's letter for Santa and finds out that this bear is real popular this time of year. So he decides he's going to go and get her done. Unfortunately... Okay, I'm done with the bad, very capable accent. Unfortunately, the millionaire stepfather gets a whiff of it and tries to buy up all the bears himself, creating an artificial shortage.
Ah,
So
that's a dick move.
it was a dick move.
It's a dick move.
But they all come together happy in the end. This comes across as cheesier Hallmark fodder than anything else. At least the Arnold Schwarzenegger one kind of stood on its own. This one does not.
Oh.
So, to avoid, unless you like stuff like that. Like, I'm going to watch Christmas Vacation 2 eventually. And
Good. So we might have enough time to end on a good note.
1 minute.
Very short episodes series. I finally watched Tonari no Seki-kun, The Master of Killing Time.
Yeah.
21 episode series. Each episode's around 6 minutes long. It's pretty easy to watch. But basically, the gist is very simple. You have this girl, Rumi, who sits at the back of class. There's this boy, Seki, who sits next to her, behind a really tall kid, so the teacher can't see him. Seki never pays attention. He's always doing something weird. Usually, not always super weird, but often it is. But it's always not class related.
Didn't I get you that one?
I think you did, yes. Rumi always starts off trying to pay attention and gets more and more sucked into everything going on.
And she gets in trouble.
And she often ends up... He gets called out a couple times, which is kind of great when you see him get it. But that's it. That's the whole premise. It's a short series. It's easy to watch. It's a lot of fun. That's really all it is to do it. He had gotten it for me, but I actually had a coworker who streamed it when it first aired, and she was like, "You need to watch this. You would love this. It's the best show." And I liked it. It was good times.
Well, that's
All
it
right.
for this episode. We'll see you again probably in January sometime. But stay tuned next week. We got some fun stuff coming up.
All right.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Hi.